now. It's always weird, that voice. So yeah, come to sitting. Oh, I'll mute you. So you can choose how you want to sit. Cross-legged, kneeling. We'll start with the palms down. I like that position for the hands. It's very sort of grounding. It's sort of kind of really connecting downward, which is important, I think, for when you come to, you know, starting your practice. You can sense the sense of the body as you press down through your hands. And then also the reassuring kind of contact with the earth helps us lift up a little. And then you can close your eyes, you can lower your gaze, and just make a note of how you're feeling. This is really important as well. Hi, Justine. Nice to see you. So yeah, just connecting with yourself, connecting with the ground, connecting with the earth, connecting with your breath. So the yoga itself, the word means union, which is a kind of connecting. And you can look at that in many ways, you know, the mind, the body, the breath, and the wider environment as well. It's also important. So we're breathing in and out through the nose. It's easy breath, not laboured breath. So if you don't feel like you have to kind of force a bigger breath than you can naturally occurs. And we want to have a sense of movement in the lower ribs, ideally. But if that's not happening at the moment, don't worry. If you've had a rush to get here, you're not feeling it in the lower ribs, don't worry. The breath will follow. You can just sort of have that in mind. So it's a deep breath in, and it's a slow breath out, ideally. By the way, there's a bit of squawking. It's because I'm staying with a friend and she's got cockatiels. So that's the background noise. Quite sweet little things. So deep breath in, slow breath out. And there's so many complicated breathing techniques we can use in yoga, and they're all good in different ways. But to be honest, you can do a lot. You can get a huge benefit from keeping it really simple as well. So we're going to just bring a little bit of focus into the shoulders. So this is where we use the belt. We're going to hold the belt. Create a little bit of a loop, and we're holding the belt in the right hand, so the loop is dropping down behind, and we're just going to hold that belt so that the shoulder is kind of in line with the torso, and the hand is reaching away, and we're then going to take the other hand and reach round and grip the loop. So I think all of you probably could do this very comfortably without the belt. But what might happen, you might be able to grab the arm, but you might find there's a little bit of tension creeping into the shoulder, and that's what we don't want to happen. So the belt is just giving you a bit of extra room. So we're going to pull a little bit with the right hand, so that we're sort of pulling the belt away, so the left hand is sort of pulled round a little bit around the waist, and hopefully that you get a sense of the shoulder tugging back. It might feel very subtle, and if your shoulders are stiff, it might not be quite happening yet. So you can lean in a little bit to the left arm. So the left arm is at the back of the waist. You can kind of lean into that a little. Keep pulling it on the right hand. And you can look down at your left shoulder and maybe roll it back a little bit extra, a little bit more. And we want to have a sense of the shoulder blade on the left side sort of melting in towards the spine. You could make that a much more exaggerated movement by simply squeezing your rhomboids, the muscles between the shoulder blade, but we're going to try and make it softer feeling rather than a big strong action. So sort of melting the shoulder blade in so that the shoulder moves back and the shoulder moves down. The top of the shoulder moves down, the front of the shoulder moves back. It's quite sort of meditative rather than a subtle movement rather than a gross movement. And then just come back to that awareness of your breath. In and out through the nose. And we're going to release the belt. We're going to just rest the arms, palms up this time. So again, it's sort of quite subtle variation from palms down, but I think it's noticeably more open in the shoulder when we turn our palms up, whereas the shoulder does sort of close a little bit when the palms are down. And it's more of a receiving and open gesture with the hands. So sort of psychologically a bit different as well as mechanically. Sensing the life of the hands, the inner life of the hands. The word in Sanskrit for that is prana, which is also the word that we use for breath. We're going to pick up the belt, take it in the opposite hand. So we're holding the loop, so it's sort of the loop is behind us a little, and the arm is sort of tucked in, and we're reaching round to grab the loop with the other hand. And you can lean in a little bit, you can press back a little bit into the arm. And ideally we want to have a sense this shoulder is moving back and down. And if your shoulders are very stiff, that might not be happening for you yet. But just keep that in mind. Have it as an intention. Later on, we'll be doing more sort of gross movements where you do get to sort of work your rhomboids, and we'll use our arms in a slightly different way to open up. But for now, keep it quite subtle. But you can pull a bit on this left arm. So you're tugging the right arm, right hand, so the right hand's kind of moving around a little bit. And you can look at your shoulder too. That's it. Often you can correct things just by looking at things. Come back to the awareness of the breath. And then release. We'll just put the belt down for a moment, rest the hands for a moment. So these little pauses that we take are to give you the chance to sort of connect with the inner life. And the word the word for that is introception. There's probably a Sanskrit word for that as well, but I learned introception is different from introspection. So it's not kind of getting preoccupied with thought. It's getting preoccupied with the body, really getting absorbed in the body. And it's interesting sort of research around how effective that is for treating stress and trauma, when you kind of really engage in the body feeling and get absorbed with that. Then the thinking, sort of worrying, doubting mind goes offline. So we're practicing that. We're going to take the belt again. We're going to hold it wide. We're going to pull quite firmly on the belt. So hold it taut. So it's much stronger action now. We're taking the arms up overhead. And obviously everyone's going to have completely different stuff going on with the shoulders. So if this is too much for you, go wider. Just holding or pulling quite firmly. And if you feel your shoulders creeping up and you're not able to kind of relax them down, we do then go wider if you're not sure about whether to go wider. That's an indication if there's too much tension in the shoulder. So we're really pulling firmly on the belt, and then maybe you can take it back a little bit behind you. And take time to breathe. So you're really stretching out the pecs, these muscles at the front. And we're going to see if we can take the arms back behind us all the way back so they come down to the sort of below the waist, maybe to the bum. So at that point, if you need to sort of loosen your grip and go wider, go for it. Or equally, if you feel like actually you've gone a bit too wide and you prefer to bring your grip a bit closer, then do that. Really intense. It should feel quite strong, but in a good way, opening up the chest. And as you move the belt down the body, you can have a go at squeezing those muscles between the shoulder blades together. I think that's going to feel quite good. And then you can come all the way up and down. So. And can you smooth out any areas that feel a bit rough and kind of bumpy? So by that I mean if you're coming to a bit of the shoulder where it feels like that's not quite cooperating, so for me it's sort of around this area, sort of take a little bit of time to come up and down, like you're trying to maybe loosen the grip a little bit, sort of smooth that area out. So we make that lifting and lowering as smooth as we can. And synchronize the breath with that. So I'm not going to tell you when to breathe in and when to breathe out, but just make sure that there is a sort of conscious breath as you move up and down. It helps us feel more, it gives us a deeper experience when we synchronize the breath. It just feels like there's more layers of experience, layers to our experience. So we're going to release the belt now, quite strong, and just rest the hands, palms up again. And there's immediately, I think, you'll get a good flood of feeling down the arms. So sit with that for a moment. And give into it if you can, sort of relax into it rather than resisting it. So we're really giving time for those feelings to express themselves or be felt, giving time for them to be felt. We will go off and do something a bit stronger in a minute, and perhaps a bit swifter, but it's nice to just not rush and take time for the body to let itself be heard, I suppose, to listen to the body. So we're going to come into child pose. You can put your belt to one side. We will use the block. So if you've got a block or a book or something, then put that to the front of your mat. Come into child pose, and it's not an entirely resting position for you here. The bum is going to drop back onto the heels, but we're going to extend through the arms. So try and get the optimum reach through the hands, through the fingers, through the arms, but not tensing up in the shoulders. So, explore how that might happen for you. You can kind of reach away, but if you're finding that tension creeps into the shoulders, then sort of drop the shoulders back. There's always a relationship with the jaw and the tension in the face. So can you soften around the face? Bring the head down. So the arms are really dynamic, but the face is soft. Head is relaxed. Neck is soft. And then we're going to come up into downward dog. Keep that strong feeling in the arms. Tuck the toes under. And here we are in downward dog. So the arms work quite a lot here. We are pressing every joint into the hand. Every joint of the hand into the floor. We're lifting the tailbone. We can bend the knees a little bit to lift the hips, lift the heels, drop the head. So we're going to lift the right foot behind you. So we're extending, three-legged dog. And then we're stepping that foot forward. And this is where we're going to use the block or something. So put something under the foot, this front foot, and we're going to come back into the lunge with the foot lifted. And it helps you kind of go a little deeper into the hip. And it's nice because we can kind of bring the knee right up onto the arm. So you can kind of really get that sense of a little bit of squeezing of the knee against the arm and the arm pushing back. And then also to relax, so completely let the thigh relax, so you're kind of dropping the weight of the torso. Oh, and I forgot to say, the hands are on the big toe side of the foot. So we're kind of, some of you might find that you can come lower, maybe lower one arm, forearm, or both arms. We're not rushing here, so you've got time to sort of, if you're feeling a little stiff, and just stay on the hands. Don't feel like you have to go lower. You could lift the back knee, you could tuck the toes under and slide the foot away. So one more breath here. And then we'll make it more of an active pose. So we're going to squeeze the arm again with the knee. You can lift the back knee if you want to. And we're going to see if we can lift the heel of that front leg and maybe lift the foot. So it's like a half a crow. I'll just come a bit closer, you can see what that looks like. So lifting the foot. Don't worry if it's not lifting, it doesn't matter. It's not really the be all and end all, it's just something to try. You have to work your core muscles quite a bit. You have to work the inner thigh muscles. And then you can sink back down again into your deep lunge. So the foot's on the back on the block. And then we're going to, from here, we're going to come back into downward dog. So lift the back knee and step back into downward dog. Just move the block to the other side. We're lifting the left foot and we're going to come forward again. So use your block on the left, under the left foot. I'm going to pause here. So the hands are coming to the big toe side of the foot. It's really quite strong on the hips, I think. So if your hips are not, if the hips are struggling, then just bring the back knee in so it's not quite so intense. drop the head. If you want something stronger, lift the back knee and slide the foot away. And come low, you come onto the forearms. Relax the head. So we're going to see if we can lift that heel. So we're making it more of an active pose now. So lift the heel, squeeze the knee in to the arm. It's like a great preparation for crow. And then maybe you can lift the foot a little or a lot. I mean, you probably find you can lift the foot more easily if you move the block out the way for this. And you don't have to hold it, just have a little go and come down. Maybe try a couple of times if you, it's hard, it's quite strong. And then you're gonna step back. So when you're ready, stepping back into downward dog. So we're going to lift the right foot. We're going to step the right foot forward. And we're going to plant the back foot. So the back foot is flat on the floor. So the right foot forward, we're going to lead with the left arm. We're going to come up into warrior two. So that transition's a bit tricky, I think. So we can practice it. So we're in warrior two. You want your right knee over your ankle, ideally, or behind the ankle. The left leg is straight. The hips point to the side edge of the mat, so the long edge of the mat. So if you check in with your hip bones, they hopefully point evenly towards the side edge, arm shoulder height, and you look over your right fingertips. And what else to tell you? There's so much you can think about in this pose. The thigh, the front thigh, mine, you can see it's sloping a little bit. One day, ideally, your thigh might come so it's parallel with the floor. And that might vary day to day. So if you wanted to drop lower, you could do that. If it's feeling too much, then don't go there. And the backhand has a tendency to drift down. So just keep a little eye on that back arm. And we're really extending as though we're going to, almost expand the collarbone, as though we're really stretching across the collarbone, and so pressing with the right fingers, pressing back with the left fingers, and also the torso sometimes slips forward. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to keep the torso upright. It's pretty strong, pretty intense pose. And we're going to just come down, bring the right arm to rest on the knee, and then lift the left arm. So we're finding one long line. Pajvakonasana. Keep breathing here. It's very intense, I think. And then we're coming down. So we'll bring that hand down. We're going to lift the back heel. We're going to come back to a lunge. So it can be a resting lunge. So let your body weight drop over that front thigh. Pausing here. And then we're stepping back into a plank. And you can have your knees down if your shoulders are struggling, or lift the knees. And just let's just check in with the shoulders. So there's a tendency for the shoulders to kind of creep up towards the ears. Can you move the shoulders back towards your heels? And if you can't do that, if that's really hard, bring your knees down, and then it gets easier, because you need to kind of have a little bit of mobility in the shoulders, and if they're working too hard, they're not going to move back. So, and also engage your abdominal muscles from the pubic bone up to the sternum. So a little rippling sensation up the front body. And then we're going to lower ourselves all the way to the floor. Squeeze the thighs together. Slide your hands back so they come in line with the lower ribs. You can press your thumbs a little bit into those lower ribs and breathe into the thumbs to connect with the breath. Pick your shoulders up. So the head stays down, but you pick the shoulders up away from the floor and pull them back towards your heels. Squeeze your rhomboids, those muscles between the shoulder blades. And then you can lift your head and shoulders and look forward. Keep breathing. So squeezing the thighs, squeezing the buttocks in, engaging all the muscles up the back from the tailbone up. No pinching in the back, though, no pain in the back. So if that's happening, come down. So we are all going to come down, rest the head for a moment, press into the hands, and then up to upward dog. So upward dog is where you lift your hips. It's still a back arch, but the hips are lifted. You really need to pull the belly back quite firm. So the belly should feel, like a drum. And then all the way back to child pose. Tuck the toes under. Reconnect with your shoulders. So can you get that feeling of the arms extended, really, really working hard, but pull your shoulders back. So a feeling of pulling forward with the hands and pulling back with the shoulders. And then we're going to lift up into downward dog. So the arms are working quite hard here. You can bend your knees, you can lift your tailbone, you can lift your heels. Bending the knees is good in downward dog. For most people, it's better for their back. We're going to lift the left foot, we're going to extend it, and then step it forward. So we're coming into a lunge just for a moment. We're flattening the back foot. I'm just going to turn around so you can see me. And then we're going to lift up with the right hand. So we sort of do a little circle. We'll get to practice that in a moment. So I'm going to hang out here for a bit. So front knee above the ankle, hips point to the side of the mat, real firm pressure down through the back foot, arms shoulder height. We look over the left fingertips. What else to say? The torso doesn't lean in, the torso's upright. And maybe this little angle that you've got in the front thigh, or at least for me anyway, I've got an angle, you can drop and you can lose that by dropping in a little deeper. But, obviously, that's your choice. Keep breathing. So if you feel like you're drifting forward, push back into the back foot. It makes a massive difference. And then we are going to come forward. We're going to take the left arm and rest it on the right knee. So that means that you are sinking into the hips a bit more. So let that happen, that's okay. We're taking the right arm, find one long line, an arrow, think arrow of energy from the back foot into those raised fingers. Push down through the back foot and lift up. So you feel there's kind of a sense of being stretched out in the side waist, stretched out in the side ribs. Keep breathing. Sometimes the front toes scrunch up, so lift your front toes if you can. Spread them and then bring them down. And then we're going to come down with that raised hand. We're lifting the heel of the back foot and resting in a little lunge for a moment. So yeah, this can be as deep a lunge as you want. If you want to come right down onto the forearms, you can. If you want to lift the back knee, you can, but whatever, yeah, or even bring the knee in if that feels better for your body today. So pausing to reconnect with your breath. So it's going to step back into a plank, and you can have your knees down or not, as you wish. So knees down or not. But do feel, for your shoulders, can we move those shoulders? If you're not able to get some mobility in the shoulders, then definitely bring the knees down, because it just makes it so much easier. So the shoulders move away from the ears, back down the body. And then you can really work to engage your belly. And then we're coming all the way down to the floor. Hands are going to be around the ribs, so the lower ribs. Sorry, I realise I need more lights on here. So we're finding that cobra. Engage, press into the toes, press the thighs together, squeeze the buttocks, and we're going to slowly engage the muscles of they call it the posterior chain muscles that run up the back. And the shoulders move, pick them up away from the floor and down, away from the ears. Spread the fingers and lifting the head. You don't have to lift the head, by the way, if you're finding if you've got enough going on. It's okay to have the head down. You can still do a lot of good things without the head coming up. So hold it for one more breath. Should feel like quite a lot's going on. And then relax down. Let the head drop down. Relax the weight of the body. And we'll push up, so pressing into the hands, into upward dog. So upward dog, it's a back arch as well, but the hips are lifted, the arms are straight, shoulders above the wrists, and you're kind of really working to roll the shoulders back and down. Very often you move quite fast into an upward dog, but I was doing some training this week and they were saying they actually really discourage that now because there's so much potential for pinching in the lower back, so hence why we're not rushing it, we're spending a bit of time here. And then bum back towards your heels, tuck your toes under. So active arms. Before we go further, really see if you can pull the shoulders back. The space between the ear and the shoulder, the top of the shoulder. And then all the way up to downward dog. We're going to walk the feet towards the hands, so we're coming into a forward bend. And flatten your hands against the floor, which probably means you need to bend your knees more for most people. So you can start to transition your weight into the hands. Kind of shifting weight back and forth, hands to feet. You can lift your heels as well if that helps. And you get to practice your crow here. You can drop down into a squat. So that your hands are now between your legs. So depending on how you're feeling, how your shoulders are, if you just want to stay squatting, do that. If your hips are sore, you could sit on your block. What else could you do? Or you could, go for something stronger and press the knees into the arms, and then transition your weight. So see if you can take the weight into the hands. Rock forward. You don't have to do the balance, but if you want to, if you feel in the mood for that, if maybe one foot or the other foot. So there's lots of options there for more resting if you prefer, or more dynamic if you prefer. Just to say, if you're doing the balancing, it's a very strong grip with the thighs. That's partly why I'm working your inner thighs. I mean, there's other benefits for that, but for crow, it really helps. If you really can pinch your arms with your knees, then you kind of get the power to lift the legs, the feet off the floor. Have a go. And then we'll just come to a pause when you're done with that. So if you want to practice a bit more, please do. Otherwise, sit in a kneeling position with your palms up. You can rest your shoulders here and pause. Rest your arms, rest your shoulders. Rest your hands. Connect with your breath. Soften your face, your jaw, your brow. Notice if there's a bit of your body that's calling your attention. Yeah, I worked you quite hard on the wrist there, so you can do something nice with the wrists. You can interlace your hands and press your forearms together and then just sort of gently rotating. You can go one way and then the other. And then press the palms away so you're pushing out. And even here, you could really sort of make this very much about the shoulders, because you'll notice you can do that movement like that with lots of tension in the shoulders, but you can also really use it as a movement to be really mindful about the shoulders, so you're pulling down. So you can find that extension through the arms without the tension in the shoulders. It's a whole skill. And then we'll just, hopefully you can remember which thumb was on top. So we'll just do that clasp again. And if you can't remember, then just swap thumbs, because you'll have a dominant clasp. So swap which, and then we're just going to do that movement again. You can slow it down. It's quite good slow if you really slow it down. Push away once again. We're just opening up the palm. Another thing you can do is release the hands and just sort of so imagine you're kind of on your motorbike or something, doing the that kind of movement, opening up this area. Good thing to do. So we're going to come back to that Parsvakonasana, the transition from warrior that we did earlier, because it's a nice one to practice. And Parsvakonasana is, quite a strong pose. So we'll use a block for the next version of that. So let me think how to. Yeah. So come to downward dog. Have your block at the front of your mat. Come up to downward dog. We're going to lift the right foot, pick it up behind us. Step it forward between the hands, flatten the back foot. So we're going to do that nice little transition where we sweep up with the opposite arm into warrior 2. And then we're going to come down again. So you can lift the back heel and lift. So we're moving with the back arm. So down, the back hand comes to the floor. We'll lift the right hand. So we're twisting. So the back heel's lifted. And now bring both hands down. We're going to flatten the back foot. We're going to lead with the left hand coming up. That looks really nice. And then we're going to smooth it out. So go in slow motion, lift the back heel, coming down nice and smooth and slow. Planting that left hand, coming into the twist, lift the right hand. Bring both hands down, plant the back foot, and once again, nice and smooth, coming up. Find your warrior, Virabhadrasana. So again, same principles. Hips point to the front, to the side edge of your mat, front knee bend, planting weight back through the back leg, arms shoulder height, looking over the fingers of the right hand, really pressing in two directions. So it should feel very, powerful across the chest, real like opening across the chest. And notice if there's tension in the shoulders. Can you kind of drop down with the shoulders? So we're going to rest the right arm on the right knee. So that's half, it's the pose is Utthita Parsvakonasana or Parsvakonasana. It just means extended angle. So we did this earlier, we're going to do it again. Lift the left hand. So it makes you drop lower into the hip, but it's not necessarily the right thing for everyone's hip to be very low. So if you're finding this, intense, then just straighten up the front leg a bit. That's okay. Or even you can, come up a little bit. Lift the toes off the front leg, spread them. Bring them down. And now we're going to lift the back heel. We're going to bring both hands down. We'll just rest in a lunge, just for a moment. We're using the block now. So for the full Parsvakonasana, you have your right hand on the block, and well, you don't need the block. If your arms are really long, you might not want it, but I'd suggest using the block. On the little toe edge, and then we're coming back up. So we're flattening that foot, the back foot. We're finding the line from the back foot into the raised hand. And it's pretty intense on the front hip. So just hang out here. If you feel like it's too much, you could come higher on the block. That might help. Or just rest, come out, come back to having the back knee down. So you could do that, actually, that would be another option, have the back knees down. So the foot is sort of behind you, that would be a good substitute as well. And then well done. It's pretty full on, isn't it? So we're going to come back into a lunge. And let's just straighten up that front leg. So I don't want to leave you with any sort of cramping feelings in the foot, in the hip. So straighten up the front leg, and you can kind of let your body drop down over that leg. We're going to slide the foot back so that we're in a kneeling position, and then drop the chest. So the bum, for this, the bum stays above the knees. It's also a bit nice for the upper back. And then we're just letting the chest drop to the floor. It's called Anahatasana, which it just means heart opening. The elbows can go wide. Or you can extend your arms out in front. Press into the toes of the back of the feet, the toes of the feet, just so that you're not losing connection through the feet. And remember what's going on. Check in with your shoulders. If there's a lot of tension crept in there, then you might want to bend your elbows. Relax and soften the face, the jaw, the tongue. Take a breath. So we'll do the other side in a moment. So you're going to come back to kneeling. Tuck your toes under, bum back towards your heels, all the way up into downward dog. And we're going to lift the left foot. We're going to step it forward. We're going to flatten the back foot, so the back foot, the toes of the back foot turn out. And we're going to swing that right arm forward to lead us back up into warrior. I'm just going to turn around. So there we are in warrior. By the way, if coming up like that just feels a lot, a lot to ask for your hips, you could always have the other hand on the thigh. So you can push into the thigh to come up. That's a good option as well. So arms shoulder height. Look over the left fingers. Press back into the right foot. Maybe this front thigh. Maybe you can lean in so the thigh goes lower. It's not the be all and end all, just something to be aware of. So we'll practice that transition. We're going to lift the heel of the back foot, leading with that right hand. We're coming down into a twist. Lift the left hand. Bring that hand down. We're taking the stance again, so the back foot flat, leading again with the right arm. So that's where, if you want to have the left hand on the knee, you can do that. It makes such a difference. Your hips are sore. We'll just do that again, if you could bear to. So if you want to bring the left hand onto the thigh to help you, you can do that. Right hand down, left hand lifted. Back heel is lifted. Left hand down, we're pressing down into the right foot, leading with the right hand, come back up again. Probably had enough, probably heartily sick of warriors now. So, we'll just rest into the Parsvakonasana, if you could call it a rest. So that's halfway, and then take the arm up. And just be aware what's going on in your shoulder. Are you getting the extension of the arm at the cost of the shoulder? Can you find a way of reaching away with the arms and pulling the shoulder down? It is possible, but it's a little bit. You have to kind of think it, feel it, and experiment with it. So we're going to come down, lift the back heel with both hands down, and we'll use the block to support us. So rest for as long as you need to. If you need a longer rest, then go for it, take it. So the left hand is on the block, and we're lifting the right knee. So we're finding that shape again, the long right leg, the bent left leg, the line from the right foot up to the right hand. I should have said this before. I hope you know that you can always make adjustments. If the shoulders are feeling tired now and you want to bend the arm, that's okay. You're doing very well. And then come down, hands either side of the foot. And we'll bring the back knee down. We'll bring both knees together, and we'll take a child pose. So bum back to the heels, head down. I'm relaxing. And softening around the shoulders. So one way to do that is bending the arms a little bit. The arms in child pose, there's also a very nice option of taking the hands back, so they're resting by your hips, with the back of the palm on the floor. And that does really feel quite good in lots of ways. I think it's almost like a fetal position, so that can feel quite good. And then it does take out any sort of strain of the shoulder area. Ideally, your head is on the floor, but if you're finding that the head doesn't come down, maybe support it, put something under the head. It's nice to be able to drop the weight of the head. That's why. It helps, with the kind of restorative benefit of this. Tune into the breath again. So there's no rush, but when you're ready, you can come up to seated position. Just wanted to show you a couple of things. One is amazing point. I think I've done this with you before. That we'll do for around the eyes, very very relaxing for the face. So you can use your forefingers, or actually I prefer the thumb, but the forefingers work too. You can kind of dig into this little area between where the nose meets the eyebrow, and there's a little cavity in there. And you can just, well, when I say dig in, it's not quite as brutal as that. You're kind of exploring, find the cavity, and then drop the weight of your head onto your thumbs. I'm actually supporting my arms with my knees, but we're going to use our fists now, so making little fists with our hands, and press the knuckles into the under the cheekbone. And we would go in quite strong here. And move out towards the jaw, so you're kind of more, even come down onto the jaw, to the chin. Massive, strong, very powerful area. So the shoulders obviously very powerful, and the hips, we'll be working the hips, but the jaw as well. There's lots of cavities that you can find and sort of knead in with your knuckles. We're going to finish with a little breath technique, ocean breath. So it's very similar to what we did earlier, but we just add in a technique where we slightly constrict the throat. That sounds worse than it feels. It should feel quite nice, not straining. And then what you're doing is it's like the effect if you put your thumb over a hose pipe. It just makes the water finer. So it is with the breath. You're kind of constricting, so you make the breath longer. So we'll try that ocean breath, and the name suggests a lot about what it sounds like. It's like the sound of the sea, and it could be very subtle. It doesn't have to be a sort of loud noise, but you should. It's nice, the audio aspect of it, so you can, another thing to sort of connect with. So it's nasal breathing, so in and out through the nose. And if it helps to, use visualization, maybe imagining a beautiful beach somewhere, and that sense of the waves moving back and forth. So that's the kind of feeling that we want to create for the breath, sense of the breath, coming in waves. Up and down the body. So as you breathe in, moving up the body. As you breathe out, moving down the body.
And just remembering that it is a technique it should feel good. So sometimes when we begin to do a practice, it can feel a bit awkward. So just bear that in mind. It's just kind of relaxing into it, not taking it, not letting it cause tension. So I want you to continue that, but lying on our side, and then we'll lie on our side and we'll just take the arm over the ear. So it feels really nice. You're opening up the ribs. You probably want something under your head. So you're lying on your side. The arm that you're lying on will come out to shoulder height, support your head. The other arm comes over the ear. It's a very much a passive stretch. So we're not trying too hard. You could bend the knees and use that ocean breath. And you can hopefully really sense the rise and fall of the breath in the ribs, like. Completely resting here. So the arm that's rest over the ear, we're not trying to stretch or be dynamic with that arm. Let it be quite floppy. So one more breath like that. And then we'll turn to the other side. So you can just roll away from me. I'm gonna move my head to the other end of the mat so I can keep not turn away from you, but you can turn away from me. So support the head. And the top arm is just resting over the ear. So it opens up the rib, lung area. You can bend the knees. Come into that deep breath technique. So deep breath in, slow breath out. Deep breath in. Slow breath out. You can let yourself be absorbed by the sound, the sea, like the sound of the sea, and also the movement of the shape of the breath in the ribs. And then when you're ready, you can just roll back onto your back, or roll onto your back, not roll back, and take your Shavasana. So Shavasana is ideally it's a completely resting pose. So it's really important to set yourself up to be comfortable. So if you've got any pain, for example, in the lower back, you're going to probably want something under the knees, or even legs on a chair. If your head has a tendency to tip back, then you're going to want something under the head. So these little, understanding your body, knowing what you need. If you have a tendency to feel cold, get a jumper or a blanket. If your eyes are tired and you need something over the eyes, then take that option. practicing now, letting go. I was learning some fascinating things about fascia, connective tissue, and how amazingly good stretching is for inflammation in the body, which is often experienced in the fascia, or inflammation occurs in the fascia, and it accounts for sort of mysterious pain that we can have. Or we might go to the doctor and they'll do an x-ray, you experience, nothing can be picked up in the x-ray, but the pain is actually in the fascia, and usually it's inflammation. And stretching is one of the ways we can benefit our fascia. And passive activities, sort of passive relaxation as well, it's almost as good as the active. So these kind of resting poses, very powerful, even though it might feel counterintuitive to give time to the quiet restorative practices. So this is letting go of any habits that you might have of holding. So work the big joints, the jaw, softening around the jaw. Let the tongue be full in the mouth. Shoulders, let them drop back towards the floor. Hips. Completely relaxing the weight of the hips, the buttocks, the lower back, the belly. Nothing to prove in this pose. Nothing to do really, in a conventional sense. Peeling back the layers. Layers of holding and that impulse that we have to sort of carry our weight, holding our own weight, and so experiencing dropping of weight, surrendering. And we're really talking about the body, but of course this applies to the mind as well. So, habitually we have thoughts that pop up, so letting those pass, Not to say you can ever stop them coming, but you can not hold on to them. And the breath as well, so letting the breath be easy. Sense the body breathing. Maybe you can get a sense of the universe breathing you. That you're not even, participant in. And so you can rest here for longer if you wish. Please do if you feel like you need a more rest, or you can begin to bring some small movements into the body. And quite often people don't come back, they just rest in their shavasana, so that's good with me, so don't feel like you have to. I'd be very happy to see you take a longer shavasana. And if you are coming back, you can roll onto your side, rest there. Slowly come to sitting. We're just going to bring our hands around the heart area, not to press them together actually, we're just holding them a little apart. And just sensing the sensation between the hands. Maybe there's not much happening, maybe there is something. And as we take a breath in, maybe pulling the hands apart a little bit. And as we breathe out, moving the hands closer together. So we're just sort of following the rhythm of the breath and the movement of the ribs a little bit. And we'll finish with the hands lightly pressing the fingers together. You can keep a little space between the palms, as though you're holding something precious there. And then lift your thumbs to your third eye or your forehead, yin tang it's called in acupuncture. And it's a point for calming the mind and the lower back actually. And press in there and let your head drop. you very much, everybody. Have a very good evening, and it's nice to see you all, and hope you're all okay. I feel like I worked you quite strong in the hips, so I hope that was okay for you. If you ever feel like you have, something isn't quite right for you, do feel free to sort of ask me about it. I'm very happy to learn from you about, how to give better instructions. So yeah, do ask if you have any questions. And anyway, thank you, everyone. I've done my first month now of doing my booking system, so thank you for putting up with it. And I'll send you, I'm nearly done with the videos, so I'll send them out to you, and they'll get easier, so there won't be such a delay. So if you then have something to work on, if you want to practice between classes. So yeah, have a nice evening, everyone.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
See you all. Bye, Justine.
Nice to see you. Bye.
How are you doing? Okay.
Fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm on holiday.
Oh, it's lovely. It looks great.
I'm on holiday in Bridge Street.
Oh, it's lovely though. So nice.
I know, it's really nice, isn't it?
It's lovely.
I'm looking after the cockatiel, so that's quite sweet.
Oh, well, it's great. It looks great. I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.
Take care.